Hi everyone, it's me, Tim, and today I want to talk to you about hedonic adaptation. Yes, it's a big word. I wanted to be precise, so I looked it up. It's also called the hedonic treadmill. It basically means you get used to things. That's just how people are. People seem to have a happiness set point. Some people are a little happier, some people are a little less happy. And it's just set for them. They don't know whether it's environmental or biological. They're not sure. But most people, even after they have big life changes, return to that set point. So you may win the lottery or get that job you always wanted or, you know, win a car or something. And you're really happy for a short period of time and then you just return to your normal self. Similarly, you may get a chronic health issue or a really close friend or loved one may pass away and you'll be very unhappy. And eventually you return to your set point. This is normal, happens to everybody. There are a few people that don't seem to have a set point or throughout their life maybe have a major change that causes a set point change. But in general, most people return to what's called their hedonic set point. Now you're probably wondering well, why are you talking about this? Because hedonic adaptation is one of the many reasons that game development can be so hard. You can make a game with really cool new features and a cool new setting and a cool art style and a cool narrative tone, and people say they love it, and then they get used to it. And then doing it that way isn't enough anymore. And you start to see some of the features or the tone or whatever you did that was new and novel, you start to see it in other people's games. And eventually you see it in a lot of games. And you're like, oh, now what? I can't do this thing that I thought was really cool because then I'll be repeating myself. Just so you know, this is why, and I've mentioned this in other videos, why I really like making new games with new features you haven't seen before and new IP. I have tried to put a brand new feature that hasn't been seen before, at least in computer games, in every new game I've put out. I really like going to new IP because I like the new setting, I like the new system mechanic exploration. It's just, maybe it's hedonic adaptation on my part, maybe it's my reaction to that adaptation in fans that, they're always saying we want something new, we want something new. But I can tell you I've almost never made a sequel. When I've mentioned this before, when I finished Fallout, I wanted to go work on something else. And I did start to work on something else. And because I was asked to come back and work on Fallout 2, I did for a while, but then I eventually left. You can go watch the video for that. It's sort of similar with Outer Worlds. I knew right at the beginning of making Outer Worlds that I was not going to be there after it was done. My husband had already moved. I was planning to move. I'm still working on it as a consultant, but I'm not in a lead role. I'm not even an employee at Obsidian right now. So I am working on Outer Worlds 2, but in a much more removed capacity. And that's just something that, I tend to do. I want to work on something new. I start to lose interest unless there's some new way of spinning it. In a way, hedonic adaptation explains why I'm semi-retired. I mean, I've got a lot of game ideas. I've got books and books of game ideas. But none of them are really knocking me out anymore the way I thought they would. I think part of it is I've seen some of those ideas show up in other people's games. Some of them in different combinations I've used in my own games. But also, the effort to make a game that would have those features in it, this is a process I've been through many, 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 many times. And it's kind of lost its allure. When someone says, oh, don't you want to make a game again? Isn't it exciting? It is exciting. But it also has been exciting for many, many, many years. And kind of want something else. I don't feel like putting together another game of mostly features I've already done before. And like I've said, I will then have to argue with people either above me or the people providing money about those features, about whether they're good, whether they belong in this game, whether this setting is gonna appeal to the widest demographic. I mean, the questions you get now during the initial phases of game development are nothing like what you thought of 30 years ago. 30 years ago, you thought, is this going to be fun? Now, one of the first questions I'm asked is, well, what's your demographic? What's your hook? Who's this going to appeal to? And you're like, ugh. So, that's something to think about. In fact, now that I have a lot more time in my hands, I've been playing a lot of games. I haven't mentioned most of them, I'm not going to, but most of the new games I play, I often think, I've seen this before. I've seen this feature before. I've seen this art style before. I've seen this kind of NPC. There's some NPCs that are just reused over and over again in RPGs to the point where I'm like, I'm tired of seeing this. I'm tired of seeing the snarky companion sidekick. I'm tired of having the villain who has a twist, and maybe this isn't the real villain, or maybe this companion who was with you is really the villain. And I'm tired of saving the universe as a story hook. I'm tired of Darkness Rising. I'm tired of you've got to put this villain down. I'm even tired of the twist on that, where maybe you get to be the villain. I mean, I loved Tyranny. I loved working on Tyranny, and I loved that it explored a fantasy world that existed as if Sauron had won in Lord of the Rings. That was cool. But now I kind of want to do other things, and I don't know what those other things are. So I've been playing other games, and I told people, I've said on the channel I'm not going to review games. But let me tell you, of all the games I've played in the last year, here's the nicest things I can say about them. Wow, that game has a lot of features I've seen before, but that's a new combination of them. Or, wow, this game has exquisitely good production values. That's some really nice art. Those are some really nice cinematics. Or, wow, this game is returning to features that we explored 20 years ago, but there's a twist. Or, new technology is letting them do something different with it. Or, extra memory, either RAM or hard drive memory, is letting us have a bigger world or a more reactive world. So I'm seeing reactivity that I've seen before in older games, but maybe on a bigger scale. And it's kind of like I've been playing games like okay, I mentioned I'm looking forward to Starfield coming out. In preparation for that, I decided to go back and play all of Bethesda's games all the way back to... I got Daggerfall. Didn't finish it though, but I did, because I already owned them. I replayed and finished Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, and Fallout 4. Because I wanted to play through them all again. So when I'm playing Starfield, I'm like, okay, if there's something new and fresh in here, it's going to jump out at me. That's what I'm hoping for. When I see new games show up on Steam, on Xbox, I'm a big console player now. I'm waiting for like the new big thing. And yet I'm worried that hedonic adaptation is starting to ruin games for me. Between that and my history of being a lead and having to critique everything in the game I'm playing to make sure that the bugs are out, that the design's working together, that things are balanced. Between those two things, games are feeling a little less novel to me. And looking at reviews online, I'm wondering if everybody's experiencing that. I see a lot of people say things like, I've seen this before, or this reminds me of an old game, or isn't this just Game X with this twist? And I agree for the most part with what people are saying. So what do I want you to get out of this video? Hedonic adaptation is something that may be happening to you, and maybe it's why you're not liking some of the new video games as much. It's less on the video games and more about you. But yes, there are some video games that aren't really trying to do anything new. Hedonic adaptation is why I never wanted to make a sequel. Hedonic adaptation is why I'm semi-retired. And to game developers watching this, wow me. Come up with something really new and novel and blow my mind. That's what I'm looking forward to. I want to retire and play some of the coolest video games that have ever been made. So make them, please. And that's it.